Good morning, everybody. My name is AM Duff. I am the Governor's Counselor for District 5. And this nominee falls within my jurisdiction, so I will chair the hearing today. And we will start the hearing with the letter of nomination from the governor dated September 30th. Dear councilors, I am pleased to nominate Stephen B. Geary to the position of Associate Justice of the Lowell District Court. I submit the nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker. So thank you. And may I ask the nominee to introduce his first witness, please?
Thank you, Councilor Duff. I'd like to introduce retired Judge Barbara Pearson.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Councilor Duff. Good morning to all of the councilors, and thank you all for the time that you give tirelessly every day to make sure that we have the best people on all the benches. I can't believe it was 28 years ago now that I appeared before the council. One of the members, Chris Iannella, I hope you're here. I heard your voice. He was, I don't know if it was his first time, but it was probably the third time that I went before the council, having been approved by you or your body as a district, as a commissioner first of the Industrial Accident Board, and then a judge and a reviewing board judge for the Department of Industrial Accidents, and then 28 years ago was affirmed by your body to go on to the district court in Lowell, where I sat for the last 27 years. It's great honor for me, and was when Steve Geary called me and said that he'd been nominated by the governor and asked if I would speak on his behalf, so that I could do everything, and I'm delighted to do everything I can do to see that he wins your hearts and your minds as the most able candidate for the seat as Associate Justice of the Lowell District Court. I've known Steve Geary for as many years as I've been on the bench, because that's about the time that he began practicing. And I will tell you that he's been before me many times in civil cases, in criminal cases. He's presented restraining orders. He's had difficult cases, complex cases. He has cases that have involved mental health. He's had cases involving substance abuse. And in my opinion, he stands out as an outstanding attorney, represents his clients, understands all that's going around each case that he has. He gives it his all, and he's been extraordinarily impressive as he's presented his cases, both to me as judge as well as to the jury. I consider Steve to be very well-rounded. He's not he's young, but he's not starting his career on the bench. He's had a great career both in business and in law. His law firm holds a great reputation, and I don't know anyone in Lowell who hasn't been to Meadowlands for ice cream, a business that Steve owned, and it still has great ice cream, even though he doesn't own it anymore. Steve, I consider to be flexible. He's patient. I've watched him sit in a room and observe without, doing other work while he's waiting for cases to be called. And I think he's a man who will instill great confidence in not only the Lowell District Court, but all the courts, if you approve him and affirm him to the seat in the Lowell District Court. I also just want to say he was a neighbor of my daughter's, and she remarked about what a great father he was to his twins, and remains to be, and a great family man. So with that, if anyone has any questions of me, I endorse him wholeheartedly, and no question in my mind that he has the integrity, the ethics, professionalism to be a great district court judge.
Madam Chair, Terry Kennedy.
Thank you, Council Kennedy. Thank you, Judge. You are a legend, and we're thrilled that you're here to testify on his behalf. Do any of the counselors present have any questions for the judge?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Terry Kennedy.
Yes, Terry.
Judge,
You put the volume. This is awful.
video.
Believe.
So, no, I'm out of audio. I can't get the video working. But Judge, I just want to say, would you do me a favor? Could you come back? We need you.
Thank you very much.
You are
I
greatly
miss all of
missed.
you. Thank you very much.
Council Kennedy, I do have to say, I think the judge is working to the age of 70 when they choose to read. Well, they don't always choose, but they've given their time to the Commonwealth, and we are forever grateful for their service.
Counselor Duff?
Yes,
You
sir.
don't know what it was like to appear before Judge Pearson all those years. We need her back.
Okay, all right. Councilor Iannella, did I see you raise your hand? Councilor Iannella? I think he may have muted himself. Let's, okay, how about, who will be our next witness?
Can you hear
Oh,
me
wait,
now?
Councilor Iannella.
I'm back.
All right,
Yes.
thank you,
I don't
Counselor.
have a question. I don't have a question, just a statement. I have the highest regard and respect for Judge Pearson. Her testimony means so much to me. She was an outstanding judge at the Department of Industrial Accidents. And again, when she was in the district court, she's the best. And I have no question when she testifies on behalf of someone, like I said, it means so much to me. And when Stephen Geary's name comes before us next week, partly because of Judge Pearson's testimony, I'll be enthusiastically supporting Judge Geary. And it's always a pleasure to hear from Judge Pearson. I spoke with her at length yesterday, and I look forward to the vote next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Iannella. I appreciate it.
You can speak. You can speak.
Is anyone talking? I want to talk. Counselor Duff?
She seems to have gone off the screen. Technical issue.
Councilor Duff's services. They can.
Counselor Duff?
No, I'm just going to suggest that you give the question and come back.
Thank you, Counselor Kennedy. Okay, my sound is off. I cannot hear anyone. We're having technical problems, and I am sorry I didn't hear the judge. And I just want to say I hope you have a great retirement. I'm sorry I didn't hear your words, and I am trying to get that 70 changed. And we're losing good people like you. So that's all I have to say, because I'm not hearing anything. So I hope someone can fix my technical problems over here so I can participate.
Thank you very much.
Eileen, we can't hear you.
Can you see me? I can
you hear
see
me
you,
now?
Terry, but I can't hear you.
All right. Marilyn, you need to hit unmute.
No, I have someone here that's technical, and he's trying to fix it. It's not me.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, my signal went down as well. Is there not another witness, sir?
All right, if it could go,
I'd like to have,
don't touch it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I would like to have Attorney Raymond Ilg speak.
Thank you, Attorney Hill.
I have met him.
Ray, hit him. Unmute. He's muted. Ray, you're muted.
There we go. I'm
There
not
you
muted
go.
anymore. There we go. Well, good morning. Yes, and especially good morning to Attorney Stephen Geary. I've known Stephen for quite a while as an attorney, practicing attorney, and I would definitely support everything that the Honorable Judge Pearson has stated about him. But adding to that, I have a personal experience with Judge Geary, which I thought showed that his character is exemplary with regards to dealing with in distress. A few years fentanyl became a very popular drug amongst the people that use drugs in the city of Lowell and in Massachusetts, and nationwide, actually. There were quite a few people who were using this drug, and it was very dangerous and fatal to most of them. There is a pathway between Judge Geary's office building and our office building, which we use on a regular basis, as well as other people use on a regular basis, traveling to and from the courts, to and from stores. And what was happening is the homeless people and the drug addicts starting to stay overnight in this pathway. And it was on the property of Geary's building, and they were leaving many needles, hypodermic needles on the ground. They were leaving their cotton balls with the blood stains on it. They were leaving food. They were leaving human waste as they were staying in this area. Attorney Geary found out about this. In fact, I had gone to his office to advise them that I had seen it as I was walking through that area. And Steve got involved right away with it. He went out and he met with these people. He saw them at times injecting drugs in his presence. He sat down and he talked with them. He treated them with dignity and compassion, knowing that they were addicts and knowing that they were struggling. And he was trying to convince them to get help and also convince them to stop doing what they were doing in this pathway. Steve and I had talked about this during the time it was happening, and Steve had told me that his main concern, as was mine, young people going through, their students who live in the area would travel to and from going to school, Middlesex Community College, Lowell High School, and other schools in the area. As they would pass through these areas, they would see these needles on the ground. Stephen employed Trinity Ambulance to come in every day and clean the area up early in the morning so that these young children going through there, high school students going through there, wouldn't be exposed to the needles on the ground and have a tendency to pick them up or kick them around, or they could possibly get themselves hurt very well. These are homeless people that were using it and drug addicts. And Steve talked with them and treated them with extreme dignity and compassion. As I said to Steve once, I knew he had applied for a judgeship. It struck me that this story as to what he did was significant in showing his true compassion for those that need it the most. And his way he treated it, the way he attempted to help these people, and the way he ended up securing the area was remarkable in my eyes. These people had come to the lowest point in their lives, and they were living on the outside of a building on the ground amongst the needles and drug paraphernalia, as well as the other garbage that they had left and brought there. And I just thought that this is the kind of person we need as a judge, because you don't lose your compassion to help the least of us in times of their need. And that's what Steve was attempting to do and did do. I strongly recommend him for the seat on the bench. He is highly qualified, as has been shown by what Judge Pearson said, along with the documents and the recommendation from the governor. And I think he will make a fabulous judge for the Lowell District Court, and I strongly recommend him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney. Do any of the councilors have questions? Okay, let's go to your next witness.
I believe Marilyn, Councilor Devaney may have.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Devaney, I'm sure you have a question.
I did.
Councilor Devaney?
Marilyn, you have to unmute.
Terry,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. We met when I had this district, and then they gerrymandered me out of the Lowell district, unfortunately. But thank you for coming, and your testimony means a lot to me, because I know you, and you're someone that everyone respects, and when you speak, people listen. So I really am very pleased. Now, how long did you say you have known the nominee, Stephen Geary?
Over 20 years.
Wow. Okay, what is the one attribute that you believe that he brings to the court?
It is, the biggest attribute is his ability to listen and his calm demeanor. I've never seen him raise his voice. I have never seen him become agitated. He's a very even-tempered individual. He's a brilliant attorney. I've watched him on trial, and he is above and beyond a lot of the attorneys that I've seen practice. And I'm sure that he will do the same as a judge.
Right. Well, thank you. Your testimony means a lot to me. Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy?
If I may?
Yes, sir. Councilor Kennedy?
Yes, thank you. Ray, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too.
One of the great things that I just want to comment on, and it goes to you and Rob and Steve, is the closeness of the Lowell. And it's really is an old-fashioned type of camaraderie up there that you don't see in a lot of places anymore. On a rare occasion, folks let me pop up here, and I appreciate that and all the both of you have, both you, Rob and Steve, have given me when I've been up there, and, as well as your daughter. I know you're very proud of as well. She's a great person and a great lawyer as you are.
Thank you.
I appreciate the testimony very much. It obviously means a lot to me. And I'm like counsel, I already know them both going to get through this process. But thank you for coming. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much, Terry. I appreciate it.
Do we have one more witness?
We do, Counselor. It is Attorney Robert Normandin.
Terrific.
Yes, good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity for me to speak here today on behalf of Attorney Geary. I've known Steve Geary for probably close to 25 years. Our practices are somewhat similar. Steve does a lot of criminal work in a lot of the same courts that I am in. I've watched him on trial several times. We've actually gone to trial representing co-defendants in a jury trial. I tell you, what impresses me most with Steve is his knowledge, his preparation. He has he sees the issues very quickly. He gets to the heart of an issue very quickly. He does tremendous preparation for his cases. The jury trial we did, I was extremely impressed at his ability to grasp the issues right away. Some subtleties he was able to grasp right away. I've had the opportunity to see him on many times. He has a great knowledge of the law, a great temperament, and a great attitude that I think will inspire confidence in those people that appear before him. And I echo the sentiments of both Attorney Ilg and Judge Pearson on his temperament, on his way that he can analyze a situation. I believe he will be a very, very good district court judge. It is without hesitation that I would recommend this council to vote favorably on his appointment. And again, I thank you very much for the opportunity to be heard today.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Does anyone have any questions? Of course, Councilor Devaney. I'm not sure she understands that she needs to unmute herself. Councilor Devaney, can you hear us? Councilor Devaney, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm having trouble with this. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I thank you for coming because, as I've said, in the past, I recall more than once we've had a witness, and I've said, "Well, how many times have you observed this nominee in court?" And they say once. You know him, and you know his personal attributes, Bruce, and that means a lot to me. Now, I'm going to ask you, can you give me an adjective to describe Stephen Geary that will be an asset on the bench?
I think demeanor more than anything. It's that temperament that he has, that he is, as the story that Attorney Ill gave, he is respectful to every person that he deals with, whether it's a police officer on the other side of a case, or whether it's his own witness, or whether it's a victim in the case. He has a respect that he demonstrates that comes across a sincerity that comes across very clearly when you work a case with him. Attorney Geary and I I'll call him for advice. He'll call me, and we'll talk about cases. And it's that temperament and knowledge that he has that I think is, as I said, I think he will inspire confidence in those people that will appear before him in the district court.
That's great. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else with questions? Is there anyone else here to testify on behalf of the nominee? Is there anyone here to speak against the nominee? Hearing none, I will now ask the nominee to make his statement.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Duff, and thank you, members of the council. I'd like to thank Judge Pearson, Attorneys Ilg, and Normandin for their kind words today. I really appreciate the effort and all of the words that they said. They are true friends, and they are highly respected members of the greater Lowell legal community. I'd also like to acknowledge my wife, Ellen, who's been by my side for 20 years, and without her guidance and support, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here today. And with us also are our children, Jack and Bridget, who are sophomores at Lowell High School. Because of the COVID, they are in the next room in class. But the four of us are a team, and I really appreciate their support over the years. I'd also like to acknowledge my 91-year-old father, who is at home with my sister watching this today, hopefully. He started our law firm, Geary & Geary, 60-plus years ago. He's a former district attorney and longtime defense attorney and civil attorney in all of the courts in Massachusetts. And despite his age, I still go to my dad for guidance and for advice, and it's always sound. He's never been a teacher, but he's been one of these guys that you watch and you learn from what he does. So hopefully he's watching here today and can hear this. I'd also like to thank the JNC and its staff and the Governor's Council and its staff, including Lauren Green, including Emily and Rob Ross and Valerie and Adam from the Governor's Council and all of the Governor's Councils for all of the work that you do. I had no idea how much effort went into vetting a candidate through all these boards in this entire process when I first started, but I have a newfound respect for the really serious obligations that all of you folks have in this process in vetting a candidate for such an important position. So I do appreciate that, and I'm very humbled to be here. I'd also like to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito for their faith and confidence in my candidacy. I'm completely humbled by the fact that they nominated me for this position, particularly that this position is Lowell District Court. It's a community I've lived in for 57 years, my entire life. It's a community I will probably never leave, and it makes it particularly important to me that that is the court that I was nominated for. Throughout the course of my career, I've spent most of my time in the district courts, whether it's Lowell District Court or any of the courts in Massachusetts. I've been to most over the last 24 years. And I've handled just about everything that could happen in a district court, both on the civil side of things and on the criminal side of things, from motions right through trials on both criminal and civil. I've handled multiple landlord-tenant issues. I've handled restraining orders, dangerousness hearings, bail hearings, magistrate hearings, as I said, 209A hearings and harassment orders. So pretty much everything that would come before a district court, I have handled and many times over. And the reason I applied for a position as a district court judge is because I love the district court. To me, it's where everything happens. It's where I feel most like an attorney. It feels like that's where I can do my most good in the district court. I humbly say I believe I've had a very successful career. Not that it's been success for me, but it's been successful in the fact that I've been able to help hundreds of people over the years. And you members of the council and my witnesses who are attorneys, you know what it's like when you get that letter from a family member or a client that tells you that you changed their lives. And you're not really thinking much of it at the time because you grab the next file and you go on to the next case. But I keep these letters. And when I'm having a bad day, or where I think, you know, I'm up to my eyeballs in danger in the law because there's so much going on and I've got deadlines to meet, I open my safe and I read those letters. And, you know, it's really, it's rewarding. And I guess if there's anything I'll miss, if I'm lucky enough to be supported by the governor's counselors, what I'll miss is helping people. And that's a reward that's unique to, I would say, almost any other profession. You get people at their worst. You get people in a time of crisis when they have nobody else to turn to. Many times they've been through several lawyers who won't give them the time, or they just can't empathize with their situation. And that's been something I've had the ability to do naturally. It's how I was raised, and I've loved that part of the law. So the opportunity to be an instrument of justice in the district court at a level of a judge, so I can apply that not only legal experience, but, you know, my life experience and the things that I've experienced in this community throughout my life, I think is not only a benefit to me, but it's a benefit to the community as well. It's a way for me to give back to my community. It's something that I'm really looking forward to doing. I'm not the type that gets into a position and settles in. I'm more of a type that would get into a position and see, you know, what void needs to be filled, what can I do to help, and how can I make things better? And that is something that would be on my mind from day one right until my 70th birthday, which would be nearly almost 13 years from now, believe it or not. And I would get involved in the court system. I've seen the specialty courts, the drug courts, the veterans court, the mental health court. I've seen those evolve over time since I've practiced. It's exactly the nature of my clientele. And I think there's a lot of good things going on in the district court. at this point during the COVID, everything is sort of upside down and delayed. But I'm amazed, I had nothing to do with it, but I'm amazed how quickly the government and the courts could adapt to this crisis and keep the courts going after a period of time when they were shut down. Again, those members of the boards who are judges and attorneys know that every single day in the district court is flooded with cases. And the idea that it would be closed for a period of time is overwhelming. And the idea that it would be slowed down to COVID is overwhelming. So I don't know personally, but I would assume that the courts are completely backed up, and I am ready, willing, and able to jump in and help. So you've read my questionnaire, you've read my applications, you've read my letters of recommendation, and I've had discussions with most of you. But I'm here ready to answer any questions and expound on anything that you have any questions of. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to serve as a district court judge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I will start with the questioning. Council Fiera. Council Fiera, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Oh, you're muted.
Joe?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
My remarks was that I do not have any questions. I think it's a great nomination. I appreciate the witnesses coming today, and I know you're an advocate for him, Councilor Duff. So I'll be a yes for him next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilor Jubenville? Councilor Jubenville? Okay. Councilor Jubenville, any questions?
Bob, you're muted.
No, he's not.
He's not. Okay.
He must have a technical difficulty. Hello? Oh, yes, Councilor Jubenville, we've been calling on you. Do you have any questions, sir? And let me.
Can you try speaking into the microphone?
I just sent him a message. Councilor Jubenville, can you hear us? He can't hear us.
I can't hear you.
Try, oh.
I can't hear you.
Turn up the volume on your computer.
On something with his iPhone on. Councilor Duff, I'll work with him to make sure that he can hear you. Let's move on to the next councilor, and we'll wrap.
Okay, Councilor Devaney?
Oh, thank you, Counselor. First of all, I just want to tell you, Counselor Duff, this is my first time on Zoom. I'm in the State House, and I'm in my little cubby, and I'm the Maytag repairman out here all alone. But so I do want to say that I was very pleased, Attorney Geary, to meet with you. I think it was 4 hours and 10 minutes, and I thank you for coming the distance, and it was really my pleasure. I really regret, because of the circumstances, you can't be here in person, but and so I am very happy that I had the chance to meet with you one-on-one. So first of all, I always like to go through the journey that takes a nominee here. So tell me the times that you have applied and how far you got with the Judicial Nominating Commission and with the governor.
Okay, so best of my memory, I applied in December of 2016, just before 2017, for 3 positions that were open. And one application, I applied for all 3. And shortly after that, I was told I made it through the blind interview. Shortly after that, I was told that I made it through due diligence, and they were going to have me in to interview me. So I went into the Seaport and interviewed with several people there. And then after that, I was told that I was on the governor's slate for 18 months. I stayed on that slate for 18 months, and there wasn't a position available. And so I expired, I believe it was December 27th of 2018. And then in January, I believe another position opened up that I immediately updated my application and applied for. And then I got, went through the process, and I got put on the governor's slate again. And then I was called on September 30th for this job.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through some things not actually pertaining to you sitting on the bench, but I like to know someone's philosophy. What do you think about sanctuary cities?
Well, I think for sanctuary cities and what I know about them, it's been a decision made by the, political board of that city, whether or not to nominate it a sanctuary city. I think the city of Lowell is, the melting pot of Massachusetts. I think all communities have always been welcome here. I think it's our reputation. So I don't even know whether Lowell is considered I don't think they have to have that designation as a sanctuary city, but
well,
I think
the city council would vote on it.
Right. I don't know. I don't even know whether they did, because Lowell is such a diverse community. I mean, it's always been a diverse community. This is where, folks, immigrants come. It's, whether it's, Southeast Asians, there's
so but your personal opinion is do you approve of sanctuary cities? Yes.
Yes,
no?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. How did you vote on the marijuana question?
I believe I voted no. The time when that was coming around, my kids were 10 or 11 years old, and I didn't, I've never been involved in it. I just thought it would be something that is not a good idea. But since that time, I do realize that in my practice, I don't ever represent people who have problems with marijuana as much as I do with problems with alcohol. So right. I have kind of evolved on that issue.
Right. That always concerns me because, what do we do with people who have alcohol problems? I mean, when they're before a judge, is there a place that you recommend or some kind of services, Now, what do you think about minimum mandatory sentencing?
I personally don't like them as an attorney. I've never been a judge, so I can only say that I would not support expanding minimum mandatory. I would support expanding the discretion of the judge. I've seen too many times in court, but just on my cases alone, hundreds of them where, that there's no way it could be a fair sentence if it was a minimum mandatory. And judges have a lot of discretion, and they use that discretion based on a variety of factors, including, the defendant's history, the defendant's history of any violence, and to protect the community and the victims, and the chance at rehabilitation. So I think that needs to stay, sentencing needs to stay in the discretion of the judge, especially in the district court with the crimes that usually come before those judges.
And people who are drug addicted, and I have said it so many times, we need more drug treatment centers, and especially for women, we only have one. And the men don't want to go to Billerica. They don't want to go to a prison for, But so what can you do as a judge when you have, you must have had a lot of cases that are drug related?
Yes, most cases in the district court, except for domestic, are usually related to alcohol or drugs. And in my cases, mostly it's been alcohol. A lot of times people with serious drug possession or distribution charges, I wouldn't be representing those because that's not my specialty. But there are places people can go, and I think the drug court has been pretty successful in, it's either jail or the drug court. And I think there are success stories, and I know Judge Pearson and I have discussed them. She's been involved in that. But the good thing about the drug court, from what I know from my colleagues and what I've seen, is just the fact that they have one has brought the attention to the district court judges that we can't incarcerate our way out of addiction. We can't do it. It's not It's not the way to do it. It's filling our prisons with people who are not, they're just harming themselves. I have a completely different viewpoint on distribution and exposing drugs to children in schools. But as far as addiction, where these folks, commit crimes to get resources to buy drugs, that's an addiction issue. And incarcerating them is going to do nothing but hold them there, use our resources, put them back out on the streets, and they're going to be the people who Attorney Ilg referenced on the side of my office with needles in their arms, and eventually they die. I've seen that.
Right. Well, you brought up the drug court, and I have been interested in the specialty courts, and I have gone to graduations of the drug courts, and very emotional to hear the people of all ages who have gone through, who have successfully overcome their drug addiction. It's just amazing. So I think people should know more about these specialty courts, because I think they're valuable. Now, how about mental illness? You had many cases with I see, with your resume, you've had mental illness. How do you deal with that?
Well, so a lot of my clients suffer from bipolar disorder. They suffer from severe anxiety disorder, and some just have a personality disorder where they can't cope with society. They can't have relationships with other people for one reason or another, mostly related to mental illness, which in my view, it's like being born with freckles or something. It's not their choice. It's just how they were born. But they do have to take responsibility for it. And when they don't, and they don't take their medicine and they don't seek help, that's when they get into trouble. So on my end of it, when I represent these folks, not only do I try to, meet the objective, meaning get them out of the danger that they're in or out of the criminal courts, but I also try to get them help. And I suggest help. At my office, we have a lot of pamphlets for resources that they can go to. I always tell them I'm available to talk to them even after the case is over. And it's surprising how many do call me back. And, I don't mind speaking to them. And if I spend, a half an hour, 45 minutes on the phone with somebody in a crisis, and I can calm them down a little bit. So to me, I had a good day, regardless of what else happens in my day. So I think
talking about, I don't see this very often in people coming before me. Your involvement with veterans for post-traumatic stress syndrome. Thank you for being involved in that. The people don't realize how far-reaching that is and how many veterans we have suffering. Tell me about that. What is the case that stands out in your mind involving a veteran?
I won't name the case, but I'll tell you the case that involved a veteran who came back from the Army, and he was a decorated veteran, multiple Purple Heart recipient. His Jeep was blown up, I think, on 2 separate occasions in the Middle East, and he suffered severe injuries. He came back after serving, I believe, 8 or 9 years, and he came back and he wanted to stay in the military, so he was getting his master's degree. And he went to get some books for that, and he was driving, and he was rear-ended. And when he was rear-ended, there were 2 young women in the car claimed that he slammed on his brakes on purpose. And then the police came, and my client was charged with 5 different counts, I believe 4 felonies. And he had a Spanish last name, and I'm convinced that if his name was Devaney or Geary, he probably wouldn't have been arrested. And that bothered me personally, and it certainly bothered him. So this ended up in a 2-day trial. I tried everything to get this case dismissed because my client had severe post-traumatic stress from that. It was one of his conditions. He was actually, still in the military. He was involved in a director of the Veterans Society. So he was very well educated. He had a wife and children. He was no different than anybody else, but he was treated differently and he was charged differently. And I appealed to the district attorney to take a closer look. And, in fairness, they're busy. They don't have time to take a look at every case that a defense lawyer has a problem with. But eventually we went to trial. And it was a 2-day trial, and my client was acquitted of all charges. The problem with the case is I had a very hard time preparing him because he thought just because of his last name, he was, doomed, and he didn't do anything wrong. And I was trying to prepare him for that trial and make sure that he's ready to take the stand, because he certainly was going to take the stand. And he did. And, through multiple delays, I think we got 4 different trial dates. It was delayed 4 different times for whatever reason. And it gave me more time to help him prepare and help him be ready. But, he did tell me, I do remember this. He said, you're in front of these people all the time, and you're white, and the court officers are white, the judge is white, everybody in the jury's white, and the DA is white, and everybody in the court's white, and I'm not. So that's what and I never thought of it like that. I always looked at it through my eyes, and that was an eye-opener for me. And that case will always stand out for me.
I was impressed because I've always been concerned about 209As, and a lot of the nominees don't have much experience or none in that. So you have. So I've always asked, how do you determine if the person is fabricating this charge, or whether it's really true?
Well, I have done hundreds of them. It's not my favorite type of work because of what you just said, the nature of it. It's based on credibility and the standard, that the judges apply. They're judging that credibility. And I've seen cases that, somebody fills out an affidavit and they allege very serious things. And, I read the affidavit as mostly I defend them. I read the affidavit and I try to figure out what doesn't make sense. And a lot of times it doesn't. And on cross-examination, you can expose the inconsistencies, or maybe expose that the plaintiff lacks credibility on dates, on events, and maybe somebody was somewhere else. So, I have been successful in defending those, but most times, they are granted, and a lot of times they're granted, and I'm convinced in my mind as a defense attorney that they were obtained frivolously. That's because I do a lot of divorce work too. And I understand that if there's 2 people living in a home, you can't get one person out of the house unless there's a restraining order. So if you go to the probate court and you can't get a restraining order and you want somebody out of the house, a lot of times, unfortunately, they're advised by counsel or they decide on their own, get a restraining order. And automatically that person's out of the house, can't see their children, can't do anything. After a 10-day hearing, after 10 days is another hearing, and it could last a year. And to me, that's a problem. So if I were lucky enough to be appointed to a district court judge, what I would do is I'd apply the law, and I'd apply it, evenly, and I would listen to both sides, and I would use my experience, having done hundreds of restraining orders, and I would ask, the plaintiff, is there anything pending in the probate court? Is there a history of this? Does the defendant have a history of violence? Does the defendant have any other restraining orders? All of this stuff is readily available, including the records of both parties, to a district court judge. So I think in my discussions with judges, it is the hardest part of that job. Not that it's difficult intellectually. It's just difficult because it's hard to make a decision on credibility knowing these parties for 15 minutes. And your decision is going to change the lives of both of them. So I think, you have to look at it very carefully. You can't rush them through. It's not just checking the box. You have to look very carefully behind the scenes and try to make your best decision. The worst nightmare for any judge would be to not issue a restraining order and have something terrible happen to the plaintiff by the defendant. And nobody has a crystal ball, so you do your best. And, you can't be afraid to make decisions, and I wouldn't be. But I would apply the law, and I would apply it fairly to both sides. I would give both sides an opportunity to be fully heard. I would not rush these things through like I have seen done before in the district.
Well, the 209As are particularly important to me, and that's why I'm a governor's counselor today, because I had a friend that was in a very dangerous relationship, and her boyfriend became very physical, and he was abusive, and it went on, and she kept going back to the court, hoping that the judge could intervene. So the 8th time she went, my husband's friend, who was a police officer, went with her and told the judge that he's a dangerous person and she fears for her life. Give him a $200,000 bail. Well, he got a $200,000 bail. And he turned to my friend, and she paid it out of fear. And my police officer friend said that the boyfriend was out the door before him. And the judge reprimanded my friend and said to her, "You are wasting my time and you're wasting the court's time." And 2 weeks later, she was dead. Her boyfriend killed her. And I had no idea, governor's counselor. I never knew how a governor, I admit my ignorance, I didn't even know how a judge got appointed. I found out, and I found out the duties of the governor's council. And I pledged there would never be a judge like that in court if I got elected. So the 209As are very, very important to me. Now, I can remember on a questionnaire of a nominee, a violation of the 209A on this man. Do you think some of them are frivolous? Because let me tell you what this was. He drove by the home where his ex-wife and his child lived, and it was a violation. I mean, isn't that carrying it too far? Another one told me, because I met with the Father Coalition, and you can't even wave to them if you saw them. So what do you think about that? Do you think it has to be some change?
No, I think if there's a restraining order and somebody drives by, the restricted zone and waves to somebody, that's an intentional violation, and that person should be violated. I mean, I haven't seen what you've described with the judge saying, "Don't waste our time." I've seen, at least luckily in my career, I've seen a lot of good judges. There are a lot of good judges. Most of them are good judges in Massachusetts. What I see them saying to, even if they deny the restraining order, they say, "We are open 24/7. You can, if you feel fear again, don't feel like you're wasting our time. Go get the restraining order. We'll hear you again." So I've had the opposite experience with that. And I haven't seen judges reprimand anybody for coming back. I've seen judges who I think know that people are coming back all the time, using the restraining order as an opportunity to get into court or to give somebody a hard time. But they've all been very professional and just do their job. And that's what I would do. But what you described is a clear violation, and that should be treated as a violation. I mean, if you're told you can't go through a restricted area and you decide to do that on your own and you understand you've been served the restraining order, that's a violation, and that person should be violated.
Okay. So I like the balance that you have, criminal and civil. What criminal case stays in your mind that out of all of the ones that you've had in your career?
Well, I think the one I described with the veteran, I had a recent one since that application that I filled out, and that was I believe, a 7-day trial on an embezzlement. My client was a bookkeeper, and the company owner had accused her of embezzlement. I know she didn't. She convinced me that she didn't, and she could have pled out and saved tens and thousands of dollars on legal fees, but she couldn't admit that she didn't do. She couldn't admit that she did it, and that was part of the plea. So we went to trial on it, and it was, she was a soccer mom, literally. And it was I believe it was 7 days of trial, and she was acquitted of all charges. So that it would take forever to go into the details, but very challenging case, because that case involved a lot of bookkeeping material, a lot of accounting material, a lot of accounting terms, and I had to acclimate myself to that, which I did, and I learned more as I went along, and that was a very interesting case. The stakes were high, and it worked out.
There's a case that you had where the father, he had an assault and battery charge for over his teenage daughter, was going through a divorce and so forth. Do you want to talk on that? And I thought that was an interesting case.
Well, that was a case I had in Air District Court where I didn't handle the original divorce. So the divorce was over. My client had physical custody of both children, the son and the daughter, who were high school students.
This is the father who had custody.
The father had custody, not the mom. And the daughter was at the age where, she was doing things she shouldn't be doing. So the father took her cell phone. And she didn't like that. So she claimed that the father struck her. And this was a terrible case because I had to cross-examine her, and she was upset, and I had to cross-examine her mom, and my client had to take the stand, and it was, very difficult to pin daughter against father, and the father loved his daughter, and he knew that she was struggling. She struggled to who she wanted to live with, but it wasn't her choice at that time. She was not of the age of majority, so he didn't want to go to trial. He didn't want to. I remember him actually saying to the judge, "This is a beautiful day. This is a beautiful July day. She should be outside playing with her friends and doing things, not sitting in court dealing with this, testifying against her father." Clearly, the evidence was weak, and my client was acquitted, and the relationship rekindled, as far as I know.
And he kept custody.
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay. So you have mentioned that you hear from people. Can you tell us, because I tell you, I've said it over and over, if someone is qualified, if there's experience, if you don't have compassion and empathy, you don't have my vote. And when I met with you and we talked about a lot of your cases, and I found that you do have empathy and compassion. Now, in following up on some of these people, can you tell me what is most rewarding and you've heard through the years about this person going on with his or her life?
Yeah, there's one from several years ago that I think about all the time, that I read a long letter that I got for her. I represented a professional woman who had an alcohol problem, and it was an OUI 3. Again, this was in the air. It was an OUI 3rd offense. It was not, the facts were not facts that I would normally recommend a trial, but when you're OUI 3, there's really no choice because there's a minimum mandatory there. And again, she was a professional. She had a great job, a great salary, but she was a mess regarding her drinking. But we had no choice. So we went to trial. She did fairly well. I think the jury deliberated for 4.5 hours, but they came back guilty. And she was taken right then to Framingham. And that was difficult for me. I knew it was going to happen, or I figured it was going to happen. I wasn't shocked by the verdict by any stretch of the imagination. But she did her time. She called me when she first got there, screaming about the injustice of it all. And but she was still coming down from the alcohol. She stayed there. She got involved. I believe she lost 100 pounds because she came to my office when she got out, and I didn't even recognize her at all. And she thanked me. I've never been thanked for a guilty when my client goes to jail. So that's how that case is always be remembered. But she hasn't drank since. She's moved up in her company, and it was life-changing for her. So that's an example of somebody who hit rock bottom, who had the brains and the wherewithal and the support, actually, of her boss, if I remember correctly, to seek help and to get help, and then to stay sober. And my understanding is to this day she is, and that was many years ago. And I have a long letter from her that I read whenever I need something to uplift me.
Well, I do want to say that it was such a pleasure meeting you, and even though you're at home and I'm in the State House now, I value that time because I met you one-on-one and it was great. I'm sorry that you were bypassed. And I know who got that spot. I won't mention the name, but anyway, I do thank you for to try again. And after you waited 18 months, that must have been really disappointing to have it expire. So I'm grateful to you, because a lot of people, after they have been bypassed and then they see someone that's appointed that really doesn't have, the qualities and the experience that person has, will never apply again. You did. And I thank you, because the court will be better for it. And I'm just very pleased that you did reapply. And I could go through a lot of these cases. I'm just so impressed, and you're so knowledgeable, and above all, you have empathy and you have compassion. And thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you, Counselor. And I just want to clarify, I don't feel that I was bypassed. I don't know how that end of it works, but I know that I'm getting, if I'm approved, I'm getting, the dream nomination for the Lowell District Court, which is, I can basically see it from the top of my hill. So I'm thrilled at that. So I feel fortunate, not anything other than that.
You know what's great about that? You know the community, you know the people, and you know the character of the community. And that's why it's such a good fit. And I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Council Kennedy, I believe you have a statement to read from Council Jubenville since he's having technical challenges. Council Kennedy.
I love Zoom.
I believe Counselor Kennedy,
If it would be nice if there wasn't a pandemic, but there is a global pandemic and people have been getting infected. So we need to be safe. It's for the public safety, not for our convenience.
I'm here.
Okay, please, I understand you had a statement.
Councilor Jubenville called me. He hasn't been able to get on the line. He wanted me to tell the nominee that he enjoyed speaking with him yesterday. I guess he spent quite a bit of time on the phone with him yesterday, that he answered all his questions, that he thinks he's an outstanding candidate, and he's looking forward to supporting him next week.
Thank you.
Because of technical difficulties, he wasn't able to get on, unfortunately.
Council Kennedy, thank you for being that bridge. And with that, I shall call on you now for any questions you may have.
I'm going to say the same thing Councilor Jubenville said. I've spent a lot of time with the nominee over the last couple of weeks since his nomination. I've spoken to him on the phone several times. I know Steve from being in court, only from court, not socially, but I've seen what an outstanding lawyer he is. I've seen his compassion in the courtroom. I think he's an outstanding candidate, and I congratulate the governor's office for nominating him. I'll be voting yes next week. Thank you, Councilor Duff.
Thank you.
And by the way, Councilor Duff is also a big supporter of yours. She called me right away when you got nominated.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Judge Hurley.
good morning. I hope that everybody's staying safe, first of all. And I think this is something that we should consider doing more often or for a longer period of time until we know what's going on with the COVID upsurge. I spoke to nominee Geary at some length several times. And I think most of the questions that I would have asked have been asked. And my observation of discussions with him and review of his application would lead me to believe that he is an excellent candidate for a district court judgeship. Having spent that amount of time in, 20 years in the district court as a judge, having done a lot of probate, having done a lot of criminal work, I think you're a great type of candidate to have there to handle the domestic issues, the drug issues, and all of the myriad of issues that come before a district court judge. My only advice to you would be to make sure you have a robe before you get sworn in. I did have one colleague show up and she showed up for work and she didn't have a robe. Fortunately, I had an extra one that my mom and dad had given me, so I was able to outfit her appropriately. But I think you do a great job. Your compassion, your love of the law and of being in court, I think will serve you well. My background was political office and law practice. And to me, merging those two into being a district court judge was the best of both worlds. So I intend to vote for you, and I wish you all the luck in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you so much, Judge Hurley. And with that, I have to say, I concur with my fellow councilors that this is an outstanding nomination. Judge Ahern wrote me an absolutely beautiful letter of support for you. I will circulate it to the counselors, and I will make sure it is submitted into the official record. You gave me a lot of time as well, Attorney Geary, and I greatly appreciated it, but I mostly really enjoyed talking to you and learning more about you and our shared philosophies and experiences in life. So I have no further questions. I think I would just be beating the drum to keep asking you things. I think you are a superb nominee. I think that the community of Lowell is lucky to have you, and that you will be going there. And well, we hope you're going there anyway. And I'm sure Judge Ahern has a role, but may be a little small, but I'm sure she could help you out. And with that, I adjourn this hearing. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank you, and
everyone.
thank you, everyone, for your time.
Witnesses, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so long.